the weirdest but surprisingly effective way you've met a guy? Last summer we had this insane heat wave hit our area, like the kind where you can't even think straight, and you're basically living in front of any fan you can find. It was day 5 of temperatures in the high 90s, and my crappy window unit was barely making a dent. I was lying on my couch in just shorts and a tank, scrolling mindlessly through TikTok when suddenly everything went dark. Power outage. At first I thought it was just my building, because of course it would be. But when I looked out the window, the entire neighborhood was dark. Great. Just what I needed when it was still 90+ degrees at 8:30 p.m. After about 20 minutes of trying to convince myself it wasn't that bad, it was. I grabbed a lukewarm White Claw from my rapidly warming fridge and headed outside. Maybe there'd at least be a breeze. What I didn't expect was to find literally everyone else in the neighborhood had the same idea. It was like the heat had forced an impromptu block party. People had dragged out coolers, lawn chairs, and someone even had a battery-powered Bluetooth speaker playing some chill summer playlist. Kids were running around with glow sticks, and a few people had broken out board games they were playing by the light of their phone flashlights. I'm usually the type to avoid these kinds of spontaneous social things, but it was either join in or melt alone in my apartment. So I awkwardly hovered at the edge of a conversation between some neighbors I recognized, but had never actually spoken to. Honestly, I was just about to give up and go back inside when I noticed this small crowd gathered at the community garden area at the end of our block. Our neighborhood has this shared space with some raised beds and a small grassy hill. Turns out this guy had been setting up his telescope there earlier for some astronomy club meetup. He'd chosen our neighborhood specifically because the garden area has an unobstructed view of the southern sky. When the power went out, the other astronomy club people had apparently bailed, but this dude had already set up his equipment and decided to stay. Now he was surrounded by curious neighbors who were desperate for entertainment during a blackout. I wandered over, mostly because standing alone was getting awkward. He was showing some kids Saturn or something, and I hung back, half listening while pretending to be super interested in my phone, even though I had like 12% battery left and was trying to conserve it. When the kids eventually scattered, I figured I should probably look through the telescope too, since I'd been hovering there for like 10 minutes. I stepped forward and immediately tripped over one of the telescope legs, nearly sending the whole setup crashing down. He introduced himself as Sam, and thankfully didn't seem too bothered by my near destruction of his equipment. He asked if I still wanted to look, and I did, though I was so flustered I could barely focus on whatever planet he was showing me. I made some comment about how cool it was, and he launched into this whole explanation about Saturn's rings and atmospheric composition that went completely over my head. I just nodded along, honestly distracted by trying to figure out if he was cute or if it was just too dark to tell properly. But then, some drunk guy from down the street stumbled over and started asking if the telescope could see aliens, which somehow broke the tension. Sam and I ended up chatting, mostly making fun of drunk guy after he wandered off. The conversation was stop and start at first. We'd hit on something interesting, then fall into awkward silence, then find another topic. We talked for maybe an hour before I made an excuse about needing to charge my phone and headed back to my apartment when the power came back on. The next day, I ran into him again at the community garden. He was retrieving some equipment he'd left there, and I was taking a shortcut to the corner store. We had another awkward conversation that ended with him mentioning this meteor shower happening the following weekend. He didn't exactly ask me out. It was more like a bunch of us from the astronomy club are meeting at the state park if you're interested. I said maybe, trying to play it cool while internally debating if this was actually a date invitation or just a friendly thing. I did end up going, and it was definitely not romantic at first. It was me and like 8 astronomy nerds with fancy equipment talking about celestial coordinates. But Sam made an effort to explain things to me, and we ended up sitting a bit apart from the group. That was 6 months ago. We've been dating for about 4 of those months. Took us a while to figure out if we were actually dating or just hanging out. It's been good, though not perfect. We've had a couple dumb fights about typical new relationship stuff. He sometimes goes on astronomy tangents that bore me to tears, but I've learned to redirect him.